Croeso, welcome. I'm Owen from Caws, and we've come from Cardiff down to Teifi Cheeses in the Teifi Valley in West Wales, where we're going to meet Rob, who's the head cheese maker. We're going to taste some cheese and also sample some of their spirits that they make in their distillery. Here in the Teifi Valley. Rob, can you just sort of give us a quick introduction about the family farm and how it started, basically, how your parents came to move to West Wales?
So my parents are both from Rotterdam originally, not from a farming background, but involved in the world of organic food. And my mum was an apprentice cheesemaker to a lady called Mrs. Vermeer, and she made the first organic artisan raw milk gouda in the Netherlands. So my mum learned those skills from her, and she was third or fourth generation dairy cheesemaker. They started making cheese here in Wales in 1982.
Why move to West Wales? What's important to this remote part? It's beautiful, but
Yeah, we grow grass really well in southwest Wales, so perfect dairy country. My dad actually translated a book called The Complete Book of Self-Sufficiency, which was the Bible for those wanting to get into small-scale farming in the late 70s and early 80s. He translated that from English to Dutch. And the gentleman who wrote the book, John Seymour, he lived in this area. When my dad went to visit John after translating the book, he fell in love with the area because he's got Scottish heritage too, my dad. But they were looking for a small farm, and the price of land in the Netherlands still today is about 3 to 4 times that of marginal southwest Wales. So they fell in love with the area, and then they bought this little farm, and they started a school for self-sufficiency, so teaching animal husbandry, tool maintenance, bread baking, cheese making, all those things. And the most viable part of that business actually was cheese making, so that's what continued on to today.
And now, of course, I'm always amazed coming here because actually visitors can come along to Teifi, to the Teifi cheese, and to see Teifi being made, and also now you have the distillery as well. You know that it's kind of what brought the distillery to.
Well, winters can be quite long.
Scottish heritage again, maybe.
Scottish heritage, yeah. Family of alcoholics. No, it's definitely helps with the long winters in South West Wales. Good bit of cheese and alcohol. But yeah, my dad's brought up in Glasgow and always been a whiskey lover. Subscribed to the whiskey magazine. Spotted a gap in the market. There wasn't anybody producing whiskey back in the late 80s and early 90s. He tried to buy a bottle and couldn't find one. So
this is organic whiskey.
This is organic whiskey.
Yeah.
So this is what kick-started the distillery business. And I suppose it was also part of the idea was it's not good to have your fingers on just one pie. Basically, you've got to spread out the risk. And there's 2 options really with farming: it's intensification or diversification. And that's the way people have been trying to survive in farming for a long time. So having that diversity of options, having a distillery, small beef herd, making cheese, those are all things that have helped keep this business afloat and keep these businesses running. So yeah, distillery whiskey.
They sort of go together, as we're going to try today, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, they do complement each other. So yeah.
So the cheese then, that's where this all started from. The Teifi Mature is that the original cheese that you started with?
That's the original recipe, yeah. So originally actually we made the starter cultures ourselves here using soured milk in an incubator, but the consistency of that product was, sometimes it was absolutely beautiful and other times a bit more ugly. And so we're now using authentic Gouda starter cultures, but it's all raw milk. So those starter cultures are, they sort of symbiotically work with the bacteria that's present in the milk. So we're not pasteurising, it's all raw milk. and they create a very unique cheese that's very much our own. It's a Gouda recipe and a Gouda style, but we have adapted it for our circumstances.
So it's kind of very kind of like the sort of heritage, the whole sort of terroir of the cheese is of this area of this. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're very lucky. We buy milk from a farm not far away. It's Gary, Sally, and Davies of Pantglas. These are their cows, and they've got a Jersey, New Zealand Friesian herd, and they're pasture for life certified. So the Pasture Fed Livestock Association and Soil Association, so organic certification. They don't import any proteins onto their farm. It's all from their farm. They're making their own grass, their own silage, and then they use a few lucerne pellets, which are not grains, which they feed in the parlour to the cows. And they're milking just once a day. And there are, there's a lot of.
When you think about it, actually, when you think of cheese, it's that milk is the key ingredient, isn't it? And actually, if you can get that right, and you get the quality of the milk, then you're more likely to get better cheese at the end of it, isn't it? And I think that kind of shows in your cheese anyway.
Yeah, and I think artisan food production, definitely artisan cheese making, is responsible for, to a certain extent, slowing down the intensification of dairy farming, because you can't make a raw artisan cheese from a huge herd. If you've got 500 cows, 1,000 cows, the risks involved, unless there's very, very careful management. But it's much more difficult to look after 500 cows or 1,000 cows and their health, because the health of the cows is the most important thing when making raw milk cheese. So if you've got an unhealthy cow, that passes on through the milk into the cheese. And so raw milk cheese making is, I would say, has put the brakes on intensive dairy farming a little bit, because we have a added value product which we're able to sell, and as a result, because we need this quality milk,
it's raised.
It's raised above.
Yeah. And I guess it's giving farmers, additional income. They've been interested in cheese making, and therefore they've been able to sustain the farm that they've built up to now.
Exactly. Yeah. And the genetics of these cows, they're very low yielding cows. So financially, it's maybe difficult to justify, because they're giving a quarter the amount of a big Holstein Friesian.
Yeah.
But because they're interested in quality and not volume, not quantity, and that's possible with raw milk cheese making and small artisan dairies.
So the Teifi mature. Well, how mature is it then? What's the?
So this is 6 months old.
Right.
So it's a very different process to maturing cheddars, let's say.
Yeah.
Maturing cheddars are usually a much larger cheese. The larger the cheese, the longer it takes to mature. The mature Teifies, it's a slightly smaller cheese. We go up to a 16 kilo wheel, up to 20 sometimes. So between 20 and 10 kilos. And then, so we're making the raw milk cheese, we put it in the presses, we're brining it, and then it goes into the maturation rooms. It's coated, and then it stays in the maturation room for 6 months. So this is what we're eating now. This is a 6-month Teifi.
There's a sweetness, isn't there? The texture is kind of, it's very different from a mature cheddar. And more, it's more kind of has that sweetness. It has the more appealing kind of oily profile, isn't it? I guess is a way.
Yeah. And the sweetness comes from, it's a less acidic cheese. We're washing the curd with hot water, removing the whey, and that's where the sweetness comes from. And it lingers. It's got a lot of flavour, and that's because of the raw milk aspect. If it was a pasteurised cheese, it would be fairly linear. It could still be very, very delicious, but you have a sweetness, and that masks some of the more complex flavours, because obviously you're cooking the lactose, you're cooking the milk. So that complexity comes through in this cheese because of the raw milk.
I always find that people question the cost of cheese sometimes, and actually I find artisan cheese, small scale production cheese, you don't need a huge amount of it, because that flavour kind of continues to build and to kind of stay with you. Whereas a lot of the supermarket cheese, they have this upfront flavour, and then it quickly disappears. But this is just
and then you want more.
Yeah.
But so Yeah, I mean, with regards to the cost, this is a handmade product.
Yeah.
So we've got, between both businesses, 20 full-time employees here. We're a small producer of food, but we're a big employer in this rural part of South West Wales. And as a result of it all being very hands-on, requires more people. And with increasing automation and mechanisation, not just in the dairy industry, but across all industries, we are losing some of those meaningful jobs. And artisan, handmade, what does handmade mean? It means, people are a key ingredient in all these cheeses. So that's something that we are also very proud of, is, not just making a high quality cheese and trying to make it affordable, we're also providing long-term meaningful work for people. This mature Teifi would have been about 10 kilos before it was cut. So you've got the equivalent of 7.5 times more milk in there. So that would have been 75 litres of milk. So if you're talking a standard bucket, you've got 10 of those, or 8 of those buckets just to make that one cheese, and you're concentrating the fat and protein and the flavour. Yeah.
And with the Teifi, then you make Teifi with, in the box. Actually, we've created a box for the big cheese weekender that includes the Teifi cumin seeds, and that's kind of a flavour. The cumin is used in Gouda. Was that kind of?
Yeah, there's a heritage there, history. I mean, the Netherlands, same as the UK, were very exploratory. They had a big empire, let's say. Let's not talk about that. But that was part of the spice trade. And the Netherlands were in the East Indies, and cumin was an ingredient that they really prized in the Netherlands. And I guess experimentation with the cheese came much later. But yeah, they love that in the Netherlands, and so that's one of those recipes that we've taken, that my mum and dad took with them. Yeah. And
then this little one, this Celtic Promise, this is this one here, it's the most prized cheese in Wales, or even UK?
Well, yeah, I mean...
the Turkey say it all, actually, isn't it?
Yeah. This one has won the Best Cheese of Britain twice, at the British Cheese Awards, once in '98, once in 2005. I believe there's only two cheeses in the UK that have won that accolade twice. So that's like the BAFTAs of the cheese world. And then it's also won Best Semi-Soft Cheese of Britain 8 times. And that is a category with stiff competition, really stiff competition in the UK, especially in the last 10 years. And that's a cheese that my dad created and developed with a friend of his, James Aldridge. James Aldridge was Britain's first cheese affineur. And they really decided to make a cheese that's a nightmare to make, because the brevy that we encourage on the rind, it doesn't
and
like
that brevy gives you that sticky, kind of orangey, pungent rind, isn't it?
That's it. So I've had it described as wet dog's paws before. That's not how I promote it, but that brevy, that pink rind, that is the Brevibacterial linens, and it doesn't like to grow in an acidic environment. And the Caerphilly is a very acidic cheese.
So this cheese actually starts off as a Caerphilly.
As a Caerphilly, hand cut, traditional Welsh Caerphilly, hand cut, and then salted in the vat, and pressed and brined later. Then it goes into the high humidity room, and it's washed 3 times a week for 8 weeks by hand. So very, very, it's a real labour of love, that cheese, and go for it.
Actually, the smell has no relation to the taste, is it? It's kind of it's much milder, but deliciously creamy and kind of almost meaty. It's kind of got that kind of savouriness.
A little gamey. We should probably drink some of this.
Oh yes. So
booze with the.
So it's not just you started off with whiskey, but now you have rum, gin,
whiskey. A little bit like with cheese. So our mature Teifi, its older brother, is Heritage Teifi, which we aged for 2 years.
This is the one I can't get hold of.
This is the one that sold out till next Christmas. And that gets the tyrosine crystals, and it's up there with Parmesan for sure. So the Welsh alternative, and that process of making a cheese, keeping it for 2 years is very costly. Same with whiskey. Whiskey has to be aged a minimum of 3 years before you can call it whiskey. So you're putting a lot of money down, putting it into whiskey barrels. You're putting your whiskey in there, and you're waiting 3 years before there's any return on your investment. So you need a lot of cash flow. You need deep pockets to be able to do that. So that's why a lot of these small distilleries started making gin and other products like that. So yeah, our first product was actually the orange liqueur. That was which is whole oranges, coffee beans in a style of vodka. Got a lot of stick for that because it was like organic distillery in Wales opens. We were actually the second distillery in Wales after Penderyn. So we opened in 2012, and people were like, oh well,
And they're making some sort of flavoured
oranges and coffee. Like, where'd you get your oranges from? But it's not really about. I mean, of course, it's important. Food miles are important, but where's the best chocolate made? It's not made in Colombia. Well, maybe I'm sure they make very good chocolate in Colombia, but it's about sourcing the best ingredients and a certain level of expertise in creating a product that, and people love it. The orange liqueur, and then we started making gin. Seaweed gin was our most popular one. We've got seaweed gin here on the table. We've got the oak aged gin, which is aged in one of our whiskey barrels. So as soon as our whiskey is brought out of the barrel, the oak is still saturated in whiskey, and we add the gin to it, and that's just a natural colour. It picks up from the oak barrel.
How long would it be in a barrel for?
Maybe 6 months, maybe a year, depending on demand, really. And then sloe gin, which is a hedgerow gin, so it's not just sloes, but elderberry, damsonberries, things like that. We should a little bit here actually. Okay. This is the sloe gin. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. Delicious. It's not as sweet as sloe gin I've tasted in the bar. Yeah.
We had about half the amount of sugar of most sloe gin recipes because we added things like elderberry, blackberries, and they're much more sweet. Sloes are very stringent, very dry your mouth out, very dry, whereas the other ones are more fruity, so we add a lot less sugar. And then our latest one is the Dark Skies rum. And
beautiful label.
Thank you.
I guess one of the cheese that we haven't talked about, and it's a key one for us at the market, is the Teifi halloumi. Again, what sort of started you off making halloumi? It's a popular cheese, but what's sort of prompted that?
Well, we've been making halloumi for a while and selling it just at local markets and from the farm shop, and but not on a really large commercial scale. And halloumi has become a lot more popular in recent years, but we were asked to supply a music festival called Shambhala, because they took a decision that they would remove all meat from the festival as an environmental choice. I don't necessarily agree with that choice, but anyway, all their dairy products had to be sourced organically. I thought that was a good move. And there weren't many organic halloumis on the market, and a good friend of mine who was selling and also was catering and also catering at Shambhala asked us if we could supply them with a competitive price for organic halloumi, so we started making it for them, and we became the sole provider for all the caterers at Shambhala since 2016.
It's a great product. We have somebody commented on the halloumi. Any suggestions in terms of pairings with these cheeses, in terms of
I mean, I'm not a big spirits drinker myself, which is probably a good thing. But I think that
the Dark Skies I can see working with something like the Celtic Promise, because it gives the sweetness and the kind of the balancing the sweetness and the savouriness of the Celtic Promise. The sloe gin, I hear that you could probably pop that into Prosecco.
Yeah, yeah.
So that could work well. I'm not sure with the halloumi, maybe, I don't know. And then the Thai mature with the aged gin.
I reckon we should try it.
That's right.
I reckon we should try it. So this is the Celtic Promise.
Oh, right, yeah.
Try the Celtic Promise. What did you suggest with it? The rum?
Was it the rum? Which one's the rum now? My gosh.
Rum, yeah.
There you go.
Here we go. It does work.
Yeah.
Does work. Yeah. That's quite good actually.
Yeah.
Good suggestion. Might have that tonight. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time today.
My pleasure, Owen.
It's been an amazing day at Teifi Cheeses. And as I say, you can come and visit them, and it is an amazing experience. But yeah, as I mentioned, we've got the special box we've created for Teifi Cheeses, which includes the Teifi Mature, the Celtic Promise, the halloumi, and the Teifi cumin seeds. That's all online. And I guess with your distillery, you can order those from yourself? Or?
Yeah, we've got Davies, we've got an online shop. We have a shop on the farm as well. If people are local, they can come and buy from here. And we do distillery tours as well, and tastings.
Don't drive.
And thank you, Owen, for your continued support. It's much appreciated from Caws, buying our cheese, and certainly since lockdown, we've had you've bought a lot of our cheese, and yeah, it's been great to have that support, and I hope that small local businesses continue to support ours and vice versa. Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's goodbye from us here in the gorgeous Teifi Valley. Just wanted to say a big thank you to Rob and all the team here at Teifi Cheeses. They've been amazing. The cheese box, as I said, is available online at www.tcaws.com, and the spirits are also available direct from Teifi Cheeses themselves. But just wanted to say a big thank you to the Big Cheese Weekender for the most amazing lineup of a cheesy weekend, and hope to see you again soon.